You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree-hugging, hippie, free-to-be, you and me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off the lecture.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks, well, happy Tuesday evening. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. In case you don't know, I am now an official contributor for American Action News. That's right, folks, my first article posted today, and I've been ruffling feathers all day. So because of that, we're going to take a bit of a break from the Trump bash because, you know, at this point, it's starting to become unfair. The one thing that I will say about Trump is if you haven't been paying attention, he's having a bit of a meltdown over Colorado. And the scary thing is, and this is kind of becoming a general consensus for those of us who understand the political game, the scary thing is he had a really good ground game at first. He knew what he was doing, he knew how to get people's attention, he knew how to keep them engaged, but the one thing that he didn't really do was get to understand how the delegate process actually works. And there are so many in the American public who don't understand how the delegate process actually works. So, in the beginning, Trump was looking like an unstoppable machine. Popular opinion was going his way. Everybody was screaming and chanting, "Make America Great Again." Well, almost everybody, except for this guy. Trust me, I've been taking flack in the comment section on my article all day because of it. But that's all right, because even if you've disagreed with me, and I know some of you who told me you weren't going to are probably listening right now, so I just want to say thank you for taking the time to read my article today, even if you disagreed with me. Now, for those of you who seem to think that I'm a reporter, I want to set the record straight. For one time, and for one time only, on an actual permanent recording that you can go back to and listen as often as you want to, I am not a reporter. I have never claimed to be a reporter. I am a commentator. I get paid to give my opinions, whether they be in print or on the air. So if and when I decide to become a reporter, I promise I do have the ability to check my bias at the door. But since I get paid to give commentary, I don't have to check my bias at the door. And most of the time, the people that listen to me and actually pay me to do my job like the fact that I don't check my bias at the door. So for those of you who do not, I apologize if I ruffled any feathers today. And again, just because we don't agree doesn't mean that I don't respect your opinion. Except for those of you that started calling me names today, and you know who you are. Now, back to this Trump fiasco. And then I promise this will probably be the only time I bring it up today, because we got a lot of other stuff going on. We'll have later in the show another installment of A Day in the Life of Hillary Server. We do also have a new 5-Minute Patriot that we'll probably be playing as we go into break today. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. But this whole thing with Trump, I think we've honestly finally found his Achilles heel. Since I'm officially a contributor there, I actually have grabbed a bit of some articles that I found over at American Action News today. We're actually going to go over some of them as we go through, because there have been some important things going on in the news today. Not all of them center around Trump. I know some of you right now are like, oh my God, thank God he's not going to spend the whole hour talking about Trump. It's all he's been doing for weeks. Look, folks, don't blame me. I was one of the first ones to start doing this. And it took forever for everybody else to catch up, but they're finally coming along for the ride, so I figure it's time for us to start changing gears. Over the next few weeks, you'll probably notice that I start turning more of my focus towards Hillary and Bernie, because they are a clear and present threat to this nation. I am still concerned about Donald Trump getting the nomination, but not as much as I was before, only because it's become apparent that he really doesn't understand how the process works. Speaking of that, back to what I was going to talk about a moment ago, Donald Trump's flap over the Colorado delegation's action this past Saturday revealed his campaign's biggest weakness. While he has performed better than any other Republican candidate in attracting voters in the primary/caucus process to date, the Trump organization has paid scant attention to the delegate selection mechanics in the various states. Now the omission is beginning to cost him. Trump is crying foul because the Colorado Republican Party met in a convention instead of scheduling a primary or caucus. But theirs was not a random or unheard of act. In fact, North Dakota used the same procedure the previous weekend without raising the Trump campaign's ire. So what has become apparent for those of us who, and I know this pains some of my friends deeply, but what has become apparent for those of us who basically live, breathe, eat, sleep, and dream politics is that the Trump campaign doesn't honestly understand how our political process works. You'll see him using words like democracy and how this is unfair because we're a democracy. That is the first indication that you're speaking to and with someone that has no idea what they're talking about, because we are not a democracy. And it really is that simple. So when you hear folks start using the phrase democracy, you need to realize that, number one, we are a representative democracy, aka a republic, and that means that we do cede some of our electoral powers to a group and body that is designated to do as we see fit for the most part, but there are abilities for each state to determine whether their ballots or their delegates are going to be bound or unbound. The other thing that seems to be causing Trump some issue is the issue of the unbound delegates. Now, speaking of unbound delegates, remember weeks ago when I kept saying that it would be a great and wonderful thing if the Cruz camp and the Rubio camp would join forces? Well, it didn't necessarily happen as anticipated, but it is apparently happening. Yes, that's right, folks. Politics make strange bedfellows. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio supporters have teamed up in Arkansas to pack the state delegation with individuals who will turn against Donald Trump in a contested convention. Since Rubio ended his presidential bid March 15th, his network of party insiders has lined up behind Cruz to win delegates who'd vote for the Texas senator once they're no longer bound to Trump in a floor fight. Trump won Arkansas's GOP primary March 1st with a 32.8% of the vote. That was compared to Cruz's 30.5% and Rubio's 24.9%. But Cruz's canny operatives, with Rubio riding shotgun, are likely to thwart Trump. I almost said Swartz. About to have some Spaceballs references going on if I wasn't careful. Is likely to thwart Trump in the delegate election. Trump's organization is as sloppy in Arkansas as elsewhere, just as Cruz's is an efficient machine in state after state. This could ding the Donald, costing him as many as 25 delegates after a first inconclusive ballot. Cruz, who finished with 15 out of the available 40 delegates in primary voting, stands to gain all 16 Trump delegates and the 9 won by Rubio in the event of a contested convention. So this is what we've been talking about all along, folks, is there was going to come a time when there was going to be a campaign that clearly understood how the process worked, and everybody thought it was going to be Trump's, because let's face it, he's been dominating everything from the day that he announced. But the simple fact of the matter is, he didn't do his homework. He truly didn't. And I don't know if you need to blame him or the folks that are in charge of his campaign, but the simple fact of the matter is to sit back now and cry foul because Colorado didn't go the way you expected it, especially when a previous state had done the same thing, the same exact thing a week prior, and you said nothing. Seems a little iffy to me. But like I said, at this point, you can see other folks are starting to pick up on the chink in his armor. The simple fact of the matter is, Donald Trump has been telling people what they wanted to hear for weeks and months, and it is finally starting to hurt him. It's finally starting to hurt him, and it's also making people understand that while he says the things that they need to hear, he really doesn't understand how this country works, and that's where we've been for the last 8 years. It's one of the things that I pointed out in the comments section of my article today with one of the folks that I was interacting with that had taken the time to read it and comment, was I understand the Republican Party is hungry for a W, but I really don't understand at this point if going after, seeking, and obtaining the W is such a good goal if we wind up with the same thing that we've had now for the last 16 years. I mean, let's face it. Well, I guess 16 would be a little rough. Maybe 12. The first Bush 43 term really wasn't terrible. And I understand that he had to make some really hard choices. And I don't know if, faced with the same decisions he had to make, if I would have made any that were any different. But I do have the ability now of hindsight to look back and go, this was probably not a good idea. This being the Patriot Act, one of the first things that I became very vocal about with the Bush administration. And then the bailouts, those things that Obama's taking credit for, yeah, those actually started with 43. And I understand why he did what he did, and I understand why Obama did what he did. But here's my point. If we were already going to be taking government money and handing it to people, why did we have to hand it to the fat cats? Would it have not made more sense and helped the economy at the same time if we would have basically written folks checks to pay off their car loans and their home loans, since those were the two industries that were in the biggest trouble, and put the lien holder, which would be the bank or the car financer or the car lot or whoever, on the check too. So that they got to pay off their loan. The finance companies got their money. So in essence, everybody got what they needed, and it freed up money for the economy. Now, yes, that is not a very conservative and anti-socialist thing for me to say. But if we're going to cross the line anyway, could we not have done it in a smart way? One that actually would have worked. Just my thoughts. All right, so moving on to the topics that I wanted to talk about today before we do the 5-Minute Patriot. Paul Ryan scheduled a press conference today. Now, in that press conference, he finally put a few issues to bed, I think. For once, Eddie Munster actually sounded a little forceful. And basically he said, "I do not want nor will I accept the nomination for presidency." Ryan further said, "If you want to be the nominee for our party to be the president, you should actually run for it." He reiterated, "I will not be this party's nominee." Ryan pledged to do his best at Speaker to make it a policy and communications-based speakership. He promised a policy agenda that will provide a clear choice to the American people and stressed his intention to focus on that, and promised to work towards a secure border, economic prosperity, and healthcare reform. A few other things that he actually said in that press conference were that he was pleased with the choices that are currently left available in the Republican primary, and he felt no need to step in. And even if he did, as far as he was concerned, it should be a rule that in order to run for president of our party, you must have actually attempted to campaign for said position. And since he had not, and had foregone that he was not interested. The other thing that he mentioned in passing was that he thought John Kasich would make a great postmaster general. No, actually, he didn't say that. That was me. But I mean, look, let's face it, folks. Why is Kasich even still here? The dude needs to go home, go back to Ohio, lick your wounds, decide if you want to be postmaster general so you can follow in dear old dad's footsteps and become some sort of a mail carrier dude. I mean, come on. Let's face it, at this point, you need to do something other than what you've done so far, which is absolutely nothing. You've done the one thing Rubio couldn't do, which was win your home state, and now all of a sudden you think you're going to find a way to get to a contested convention. There are rules in place to stop you. Now, I understand the rules can be changed. I don't think they will be. I mean, for those of you who don't understand, there are rules in place that set a minimum number of states that must be taken in the event of a contested convention for anyone to leapfrog over anyone else who has a majority of votes. Kasich is nowhere near that number. Not anywhere near that number. He's won one state. One state. His home state. Now look, I know what you're saying, or what you're thinking. Well, even Rubio didn't win his home state. Well, at least Rubio won a couple of other places, maybe if he didn't win his home state. The scary thing is to think about the fact that he couldn't even win his home state. And I think a lot of that has to do with, unfortunately, the albatross of the Gang of Eight that has been hung around his neck. Now, before anybody starts lambasting me for what I'm about to say, again, I get paid to give you my opinions. For those of you who are supporting Donald Trump, and you refuse to get past the fact that Marco Rubio, a junior senator, was harangued into doing something stupid, like supporting the Gang of Eight bill, and when he realized how bad it was, decided he no longer wanted to be part of it, and you've basically relegated him to the end of his career, and he knows it. You can listen to what he said shortly after he suspended his campaign. I don't think he has any intention of continuing in politics. Now, everything is open to interpretation, and anyone can change their minds. But as it stands right now, I really don't think that he is looking to do much more than possibly go back and teach law again. And I can't say that I blame him. His entire party had turned their back on him at one point during this process. Some of you rather vehemently. But the important thing to remember is for all of you that can't get past Rubio's one fault, you are forgiving a myriad of faults in Trump. And I have no issue with any of them. And I know this because I spent hours conversing with a lot of you today and trying to make you understand. One, when I do this, I don't ever want anyone to feel like I'm telling you what it is that you are supposed to think. That is not what I'm doing. What I am doing is trying to inspire you to think. Because too many of us don't anymore. They don't even really teach critical thinking in schools any longer. So it's something that you wind up having to learn outside of education. One of the most important tools of education is no longer taught in primary education. Let the irony of that sink in for just a moment. And then folks wonder why we have the situations that we have. We have an entire segment of the population who doesn't understand how our election process works. They don't understand that we are not a democracy. They don't understand that by definition we are not supposed to be led by mob rule. And this is happening on both sides of the aisle, folks. This is happening in all the movements where the vocal minorities are wresting control and power, and they're becoming the loudest voices, and they're forcing the majority of people to go along with things that they don't necessarily agree with. And that's not what this country's supposed to be about. It's really not. I really don't understand it anymore, folks. I mean, it's like all of these different pop stars right now that are canceling all of these concerts. We have one that was canceled in North Carolina. We have another that was canceled in Mississippi. Both of these guys have played concerts in very, very oppressive regimes. And yet, because certain states are trying to pass laws where people that don't necessarily have pipes that matches the rest of the plumbing can go to any bathroom they want. Look, I'm sorry. I don't necessarily want to have to explain to my 5-year-old why a man with a beard is going into a man in a beard wearing a dress is going into a women's room. That's not cool. The fact that we think it is what's really starting to become disturbing for us as a society overall as a whole. There used to be black and white. And I'm not talking about race at this point. I'm talking about there was right, there was wrong, there were clear delineations. There's none of that anymore. It's all about doing whatever you want as long as it feels good. As long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares? And I do, believe it or not, understand that to a point. But when we start doing things in a society that make it so much more confusing for the younger generations to understand exactly what is supposed to be going on, and then we have folks that are supposed public figures who refuse to have concerts in states that are trying to normalize things and, say, hey, look, I get it. I understand, but this is a men's room and this is a women's room. And I've told you all this before. Once everything matches, I have no issue. But I don't really want to have to explain to my daughter or my granddaughter why there's a guy going into the men's room or women's room wearing a dress. Because he's more comfortable as a woman? I mean, come on. Is that a conversation that I'm supposed to have with a 4 and a 5-year-old? That's kind of my point. We are doing everything we can to rob our children of their time of innocence. I was listening to a station today when I was out running errands, and they were talking about how much more prevalent things are today than they were when we were younger. The host of that particular show was talking about the fact that at 13 he really didn't even have any idea what drugs were. Now by 14 or 15 he could probably tell you who you could talk to or give a call if you wanted to score some marijuana, but that was about as far as the extent of his drug use went, and he actually admitted that he'd never even really used any drugs at all. Now, fast forward to today. Our kids are 1 or 2 Snapchat sessions away from being able to get their hands on anything they want. We have drugs now that are prescription that would never have even been allowed on the market before. We have all of these opiate-based medications that now people are abusing because of how readily they're available and how easily they are to find. Now, you may think that these things don't go hand in hand. I tell you, you're wrong. We have made everything so easy. It's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be able to wake up one day and say, oh, I feel more like a girl, so I'm just going to start wearing a dress. It's not how this world is supposed to work. And before you tell me that I'm wrong, then you help me understand the now growing segment of the population that are willing to mutilate themselves because they feel like they should have been, or they already feel like they have been disabled. That has been designated as a mental disorder. So the difference is you were telling me that because they're harming themselves, that's what makes it a mental problem? What about all the people that feel like they were born as men who put things in places they don't necessarily need to go to basically try to feel more like a man? Or what about all the young men who feel like women that are mutilating themselves to try to look more like women? This is my point. This is all going hand in hand. And it's very scary. Alright, so at this point we're going to have to get ready to take a break, but on the way to break I do want to play the latest episode of the 5-Minute Patriot. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this, and then we'll go to break. When we come back, we do have a day in the life of Hillary Server, and then we will continue and end out the show.
Welcome to the 5-Minute Patriot. And now, here's your host, Alan Ray.
Welcome, Patriots. I'm Alan Ray. This is the 5-Minute Patriot. You know, in 2012, the IRS was caught targeting conservative political groups for closer scrutiny. In 2014, the NSA was caught spying on the very Congress that conceived it, along with collecting metadata from citizens of the entire United States. The lawsuits against the TSA for groping and power abuse can fill a novel the size of War and Peace these days. And agree with it or not, the Bureau of Land Management has been caught red-handed bullying ranchers in the West, trying to throw them off their land where they've secured grazing rights for generations. The list goes on and on. But you know, we never seem to hear about the offenders being held accountable. Or when they do, it's usually a very weak sentence. And like every awake American, the question on my mind is why? Well, first of all, let's take a look at how the government operates. These bureaucracy heads are not elected positions, so it's harder to oust a tyrant once they get into these agencies. The department heads or secretaries are actually selected by the president and can change from president to president. However, the staffs under those secretaries are permanent employees that may stay in their positions even through political changes. The nature of the layout of a government agency or a government bureaucracy makes it hard to hold anyone in that agency accountable when they become one of the points of tyranny in this government. The president is at the top of the chain. And you know, the president will be protected to the end by the people he puts in place. It's a cycle of deception and shell games between the secretaries and the president that drags any accusation into months of political drudgery. And by the time the issue is brought before Congress, Americans have moved on. We've come across another crisis, or we've looked at another form of tyranny, or we've uncovered yet another political corruption that we're outraged about. And this has kind of moved into the shadows, and we never hear of the outcome. It's a problem that can only be resolved through unrelenting and an unforgetting demands on our Congress. If you don't have the number of your local representative, why not? We, the people, need to start taking back our government. And it begins by fighting these points of tyranny at the agency levels. When the IRS does something that's unscrupulous, when the Bureau of Land Management tries to throw people off of land that they belong on, when the FBI does something that's underhanded, when the NSA is caught spying on somebody that they have no right to spy on, we need to have long memories. We need to start to hold grudges. We need to keep screaming and crying out to our officials, our elected government agents, until justice prevails. The battle must be fought legally and peacefully, if at all possible. We have to squelch these government agencies from becoming points of tyranny. It's just the way it has to be. Every time they step over the line, we need to smack them back hard and heavy, legally and peacefully. If we're consistent with our efforts to point out when this tyranny arises, we will be victorious in the end. I'm Alan Ray. This is the 5-Minute Patriot. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
You can find Alan Ray on Twitter at QSenateAl65. Thank you for listening. This is the 5-Minute Patriot.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, easy and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. We're into the last half of the show. So without further ado, let me get something queued up here because, as usual, I wasn't quite as prepared as I thought I was.
You've got mail.
All right, so let's get started with the Day in the Life of Hillary Server segment. Eric, hey, it's me, Server. Hey, look, man, what's going on? I've noticed all this news with you lately. All of a sudden, you're sending out all these blasts about you're going to be on this station in Dallas, and you just did this whole starting to contribute thing on American Action News. Come on, man, where's the love? I'm not getting any credit for this. Come on, you are breaking a story about Hillary Server once a week. Me. And I get no love? Come on, man. I mean, come on. I know that we had that little falling out, and I took all my information, and I went over to WikiLeaks, but come on, man. I thought we were friends. All right, so anyway, I guess you really don't need me much anymore, but here's some emails anyway. Don't forget about us little machines when you get where you're going, all right? From HDR, ClintonMail.com to Uma Abedin. Subject, hating the subway. Good morning, babe. Can you call someone and have them deliver a pallet of hand sanitizer? I want to take a bath in it. I don't think it's going to be enough, Hillary. I'm just saying. I still can't seem to get rid of that awful stench of the subway. And God knows what germs are all over that place. I'm not going to lie to you. Well, not this one time anyway. I was about to freak out being in that dark place with all those commoners. I couldn't see my limo, and the food and the beverage cart never came by. The whole 5 minutes I was riding that disgusting thing. Thanks, Hillary. P.S. Remind me to sue MetroCard for making me look like the fool in front of the cameras. From HDR, ClintonMail.com to Robbie Mook. Subject, can we stop the charade? Rob, how much longer do we really have to play this game? Seriously, look, this past weekend I lost Wyoming, my 8th state in a row, and I still won more delegates from there than Bernie did. Thanks to our bought and paid for superdelegates. Mama needs a long nap. Do we really have to go through the motions with the other states? I mean, Bernie could win all 50 states, and I'd still get the rigged nomination. Help me out, bro. The bags under my eyes are getting so bad, people out there are starting to mistake me for Soros. Make it happen, Hillary. P.S. Remind me to sue MetroCard. Saturday Night Live made fun of me for it. Sorry. That one got me, folks. I think Eric has this long-running gag with the host. If we don't get enough prep work in, he can sometimes get us. He managed to get me with that one. From HDR, ClintonMail.com to Cheryl Mills. Subject, conversion. Sweetheart, I'm absolutely livid about Bernie getting contacted by the Vatican this week. What the hell am I? Well, I guess if I can pretend to be a New Yorker, I can pretend to be a Catholic too. find out for me how long it takes for a conversion to Catholicism and fast track it. Do you think we can just send the church some money and they'll send me some official looking document that says I'm in? Cancel my meeting with Cecil Richards and Satan if you must, but I need that photo op of me talking with the Pope. Godspeed, Hillary. Tag, he's gotten me 3 times. I was able to stop the first one. P.S. Remind me to talk to the Pope about getting his blessing for suing MetroCard. Okay, I guess I should compose myself.
You've got mail.
Alright, folks, that was a day in the life of Hillary Server, complete with a gag reel all on a live radio show, because Eric Williams got me with those. The repeated mentioning of the Metro card incident got me every single time. I actually made it through the first one without losing it, and I realized when I saw it in the PS on the second one that I was toast, and I hadn't read through the third one yet at all. So, again, if you like the segment, make sure you go visit barbedwiresatire.com. Tell Eric how much you like the work that he does. If you don't like the part where I pretend to be the server, remember that's all me. That has nothing to do with him. It's just my way of trying to add a little flavor to it and make it a little bit longer segment. He should be pleased, though. I think that's actually the first time in the weeks that we've been doing this that he's actually made me crack up live on the air. So I'm not sure if he's listening right now because I haven't made it over to the chat room today. But I'm sure I'll hear about it in the email that I usually get the day after we do this segment. So, again, want to give a big shout-out to Eric Williams for barbedwiresatire.com. He's now a regular part of the K98 Talk family over here. He also does a Sunday segment on the Game On with JD and Stacy show that airs on Sunday mornings. And it is excellent as well. Actually, the crack-up game is more of kind of a given over there because he really goes after those two. I don't think this one was intentional. I think he just managed to catch me at a really weak moment. It's been a really long week. I've been doing a lot of extra work, and I didn't get the prep time to read through the emails first like I normally do. And now I've been laughing on air for the last 10 minutes. Yay! Alright, so we are actually almost out of showtime already. But it's interesting that he brought up the whole Metro Rail thing and the subway thing, because does anybody realize that Hillary Clinton actually violated the law when she did that? I mean, I know a couple of people have talked about it, but I really haven't seen too much about it one way or the other. But yeah, so apparently there is this rule about not campaigning on the subway in New York, and apparently she managed to violate that rule. I'm not necessarily surprised. I mean, we've seen the way this campaign has gone. And honestly, as much as I am no fan of Uncle Speedo, sorry JD had to use it. It's a great nickname for him. As much as I'm not a fan of Uncle Speedo, I really think that he's getting the short end of the deal here. I mean, because the part of what he talked about in that email, the second one was true. She has lost 8 states in a row. And she's still killing him in the delegate count. And that's because, again, on the other side of the aisle, the process is completely different. And a lot of people don't understand how that works either, because there are these things called superdelegates. And those superdelegates can basically do whatever they want, whenever they want, and their votes count more than the regular delegates. Why there's a system like that, I'm not so sure. People wonder why politics goes so weird. I mean, look, I'll be the first one to tell you the last thing that I really wanted was a contested convention. I mean, I understand there have been contested conventions before. I understand the process works. A contested convention is what brought us Abraham Lincoln. So I understand a contested convention is sometimes necessary. But that is honestly the last thing this country needs right now. Because there's an entire segment of the population who do not know enough about how the system works, and they're going to go along with the fact that basically this election was stolen from Trump if it gets to the point where it's a contested convention and he does not walk away with the nomination. Now, I'm not telling any of you that I think you should change your mind about what you're going to do or who you're going to vote for when it comes to that time. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have failed as a nation. We no longer educate our populace, at least not properly. Not about the things that honestly matter. We're too busy teaching people creative ways to get math answers, and as long as they can explain how they got there, it's a right answer. That is not how life works. There are right answers and there are wrong answers in life, and if we don't start teaching people that again, these are the results. Even someone who is as smart businessly as Donald Trump is, and as much of a smart businessman as he is, did I just say businessly? I don't even think that's a word. But anyway, as smart of a businessman as he actually is, to not go into this and learn the rules shows you just how foolish of a person he actually is. Yes, he has great business acumen. I don't agree with a lot of his tactics. I think he's a used car salesman in a really nice suit that's managed to make some really big deals. But that doesn't change the fact that he's been able to make those really big deals. But again, we're going back to this whole concept of we have an uneducated populace. And it's becoming that way on purpose. And nobody wants to talk about why. They don't want you to understand how the process works. If you can't understand the process or you don't understand the process, you have no interest in the process. It doesn't interest you, it doesn't make any sense to you, so you leave it alone. There is a reason that only certain people used to be allowed to know how to read. There is a reason that for the longest time, every single Catholic Mass was done in Latin. Because there were people that didn't know how to speak, understand, or read Latin. And there were people who did. So that required there be translations. How many times was that translation done? And done incorrectly? This is the same thing that's happening now. Someone who doesn't understand how the process works is trying to tell the people that follow him how the process works, and because he doesn't understand it and they don't understand it, each of them is getting more and more angry over the process because it doesn't make sense to them because they don't understand it. It's becoming a catch-22. And it will continue to be a catch-22 until we realize that we don't need the government to tell our children how to pass tests. This is all our education system does anymore. It teaches our children how to pass tests. And as much as folks ridicule them, do you want to know where that type of stuff doesn't really happen anymore? Is in the smaller town schools. I will tell you that I've spent the majority of my adult life in major cities. I've been in cities like Seattle. I've been in cities like Oklahoma City. I've been in cities in Delaware. I've been in cities in Philadelphia. I've spent most of my childhood in major city schools. As my children have gotten older, I have one that's still in high school. We recently moved out to the country. There is a school district out here that happens to be either number 1 or number 2 in my state. And I'm really starting to understand why. They have smaller class sizes. They help the children when they struggle. It's not geared towards making them take tests. They actually have incentives to make them get good enough grades where they don't necessarily have to worry about the tests. And that should be what school is. School is not about being able to memorize and recite facts. School is not about being able to put an answer to a test question on a piece of paper when you have to be able to regurgitate it. It's back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the show. Our education system used to be about teaching people how to think critically, how to problem solve, how to see an issue and figure out a way on their own to deal with that issue. But our government long ago decided we didn't need to be able to do that anymore. This election cycle, actually the last couple of election cycles, have become a culmination of that fact. Because we now have a vastly undereducated populace who doesn't understand how the system works, and they vote based on sound bites. If you don't believe me, please visit the article that I put on American Action News today. You can find it under my name. You'll see about 80 comments, some of which were me actually interacting with the folks that were making the comments. And some of them were some of the craziest things I've ever heard. One of them actually accused me of being a political insider and a GOP elite. I make money at this, but it ain't that kind of money. All right, so as we get ready to close out, I had planned on having a commercial ready for this, and because of everything else, I have not been able to get around to it, so we're just going to do a live read for the last couple of minutes of the show. We are moving 2 shows into the We are moving 2 shows into the Dallas market on KLIF 570 AM out of Dallas, of course. We will be there starting May 1st. Those 2 shows are starting an ad campaign. So what we're looking for are folks that might be interested in becoming sponsors. If you are hearing the sound of my voice and you have either a brick and mortar business in the Dallas area, or you have an internet-based business that is available to be seen anywhere, then please feel free to reach out to us. One of the folks that is spearheading the campaign for this for me right now is actually a friend and my assistant, Ann. You can reach out to her at ann@thesparkradionetwork.com. Now, what we're going to wind up doing with this as much as we can is try to get this to the point where you're getting not only the Dallas exposure, but also the vast exposure of the different internet affiliates that we do have. So for a limited time, if you do sign with Dallas, you can actually get all of the internet exposure free. If you happen to have a brick and mortar in Dallas, then that would probably be the best thing that we could offer you. If you have something that is not limited by if you have something that's not limited by geography, sorry, in a second I'll remember how to talk. See, this is why I was going to do this as a commercial. Then we also have something you may want to consider. If you do buy ad time on KLIF and you sign at least a 3-month agreement, we will give you not only the internet advertising free of charge. If you have an internet-based business or something that is not bound specifically to the Dallas area, we will also give you advertising space on WNJC 1360 AM out of Philadelphia free of charge. All right, so now that I've stumbled through all that... Sorry, I probably really should have done the live read part at the beginning of the show, but in my defense, folks, I have been working about 8 million different angles over the last few days, and I'm not trying to use that to make an excuse. Just saying, bear with me, because there for a moment I got tongue-tied, and I really am sorry that you had to go through that. All right, so at this point, it is about time for us to go ahead and make our way out of here. I just want to remind everybody again, if you're not doing so, you really should be checking out K98 Talk throughout the week. We do have lots of great shows here, a lot of which are actually provided by my network, which is the Spark Radio Network. The current offerings that we have here are Real Serious Nonsense, which airs every Monday night at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. Then, of course, myself at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. On Tuesdays, we have Game On with JD and Stacy. We also then have myself, and then usually the Loftus podcast. Now, thanks to some internet issues, I will be getting that live here in just a few minutes, but I've been fighting an internet connection issue all day, so I had not managed to get that done yet, and it just dawned on me that I didn't do it. And then, of course, on Wednesdays, we have the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and then we have about an hour break right now, and then usually I am live again at 9, and then we have Game On with Janie and Stacey again on Thursday at 8 Eastern, 9 Central, and not necessarily the newest part of the lineup for us here at the Spark Radio Network, newest branded show, because they've recently made some changes, Wake Up America Radio. For those of you who've been with us for a while, you know that Denny and I used to do Wake Up America back in the day. It was one of the first projects that we put together back when it was just 3 or 4 guys having fun on Blog Talk Radio. But that project has been revived and actually is now being run by Lou Esposito and Dr. Randy Arrington, and that airs every Thursday at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. For the moment, that is actually the extent of the Spark Radio Network programming. We do have a lot more going on over at K98 Talk, so again, I do encourage you to visit there often. But at this point, it's about time for me to make my way out of here for the day. So I do hope that you guys have enjoyed the show. Pardon me for my little bit of tongue-tied moments there, and also the moment where Mr. Eric Williams managed to get me pretty good with the email segment. Again, want to give a quick shout-out to Mr. Alan Ray, the producer and creator of the 5-Minute Patriot, which will be a regular Tuesday night thing here until he decides to take it to a full hour, which he's working on, and as far as I know, we'll be doing so sometime in May. And another quick shout-out to Eric Williams of BarbedWireSatire.com, even if you did manage to get a hold of me. All right, folks, I'm out. Just remember, until I see you, even if you disagree with 99% of what I say, get involved. Find a way to make a difference. Get off the couch, put down the remote, and do something, because we're about out of time. Back with you live tomorrow night.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.